Well, welcome to the Inspiration Incubator, Laurie. How are you?
I'm good, Leona. It's so nice to see you. It's been so long, and I'm just flattered that you even reached out to talk today.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, I'm just overjoyed and excited because when I think about a woman who is kind, considerate, intelligent, dynamic, awesome, amazing,
You're
I
going to
think
make
of
me
Laurie
cry.
Vignaud. Well, let me tell you something right now. The Inspiration Incubator was created to help give people their flowers while they were still here. And you have earned your flowers. And I just can't say enough. And so, what I want to do, everybody, I want to read just a portion of her bio, just a portion, just a screenshot, and then we'll get into the interview. Okay. Now, with more than 35 years in leadership roles in banking and community development initiatives, Laurie has demonstrated a strong track record in initiating and leading change, driving results, and innovating amid a rapidly evolving banking landscape. Laurie's financial and business acumen, integrity, passion for community banking, and commitment to strong talent management are important qualities considered by the board of directors. In her first year as president and CEO, Ms. Vignaud successfully grew the bank in capital deposits and loans, ending her first year profitably after having 3 unprofitable years under the previous leadership. She has successfully cultivated relationships with corporate giants like Google, Walmart, Pfizer, Microsoft, NFL, and others while joining alliances with Citi, JP Morgan, Chase, Wells Fargo, and Amegy. Ms. Vignaud previously served as the president of Capital One's Bank's Community Development Corporation and senior vice president of community development banking for their South Central region. In these roles, Ms. Vignaud was responsible for the development, monitoring, management, and promotion of community development programs and community reinvestment. Okay, now the initiatives for Capital One in Louisiana and Texas. She has been instrumental in bringing millions of dollars in grant financing to Capital One that were used to support affordable housing programs. In addition, she has created and led some of Capital One's most innovative affordable housing and small business initiatives, receiving national recognition for her efforts. Now, you all can go on to LinkedIn and check Ms. Laurie Vignaud out, but I would be remiss if I did not read some of her bio. So I just had to touch bases because she is a phenomenal woman to me, to our community, and I needed to touch bases on that. So welcome, Laurie.
Oh, you are so kind, so sweet, and thank you. I guess, well, I've been busy, listening to you read that is like, God,
yes,
those years went by really fast, and it isn't until you kind of put it on paper or you hear somebody say it that it's like, oh, I guess I have been a little busy the last 35 plus years, But
yes, you have.
I have to admit,
Yes.
it's something that I have enjoyed 100%. I often say I was blessed. I get paid for doing something that I really enjoy. And it has been a joy to be affiliated with the organizations that I was with, the work that I was able to do. And I still see a future out there of things that have yet to be done that I hope that I'll be on someone's team to get it done. Yeah.
Amen. Now, I want to get something out of the way, some logistics before I jump in to the more personable side of you. There was some conversation in regards to Capital One Bank. Is that something you can talk or discuss about today?
No, I cannot talk about it. I have no desire to talk about it, but I'm happy to have it behind me.
Thank you. And I just want everyone to know who has been following that conversation, that is indeed how you handle your business. When you no longer have to talk about the situation that occurred when there was a disagreement, that is how you handle your business. It is no longer a topic of conversation. So that's how you boss up for all the young people out there. Don't talk about it, be about it, handle it, and move on. So moving forward, Laurie and I met years ago.
Yeah.
And she was just the key component for an amazing event that happened back, I believe it was 2009, around that time, 2009, which is the year after my mother had passed. And having had brought Dr. Maya Angelou here to Houston, Texas, because Laurie Vignaud was helpful in helping the bank to see the importance of Dr. Maya Angelou speaking, being heard, all of that wisdom being poured out on our young people. Because of that decision that she made to get behind that event, it happened. I always say Marcus Davis was the first check, that $25,000 check that he wrote was such a blessing, and that helped to hold the spot. But Capital One Bank sealed the deal with that $50,000 check. Had that not been for Laurie Vignaud saying a yes, and I'm gonna get behind this and I'm gonna drive it, we would not have those memories today. So I wanted to thank her, publicly, as I have thanked her privately, for just being in the trenches for the community and making sure that events like that happen. So thank you, Laurie. That was amazing.
That was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I think, like most of us who have read her books and have been in awe of Dr. Angelou, it was like, how in the world can you pass this up? And what was so attractive about your program is that you focus on making sure that underrepresented young children from communities that I have been mission driven to make sure that we make sure that they're exposed and they have access. That was the reason primarily, not just that I got a chance to meet her, which will forever be in my heart. And I have her picture prominently displayed when we took pictures with her, but it was about the kids and making sure that others who would never have an opportunity to be in that room, to be able to listen to her. That was really what was the mission and what we accomplished. And I could not have done it without you and the members on your team that brought it all together, because it was a beautiful event and one that I'll never forget. Never forget.
Thank you. Well, I'm grateful for everything that you stepped up to bring, because it would not have happened. So you're always a part of my special memories as it pertains to that, and then some. So moving on, tell us about your upbringing and how along the way you may have had some inspiration through your parents, some of your mentors, and how you started out on your trajectory as becoming you were just breaking records over here, Laurie. With Unity Bank, was it the first African-American woman? How do we start as a youth getting deposits that even lead to that?
Oh, wow. I don't even know where to start with that. But most people who have met me know that I'm not originally from Houston, even though I've adopted Houston as my home. But I was born and raised in New Orleans to parents who didn't finish high school, but had a work ethic that I could not match, and a dream for their children, for us to be able to go to college and to be successful. My dad was self-employed. He was a plastering contractor, one of the best and most known plasterers in New Orleans. I mean, if you go down St. Charles Avenue, if you go into St. Louis Cathedral, when you look at those ornamental designs that are made of plaster, that's what my dad did. He could take a picture of it and go home and recreate it. He was amazing. But my dad worked really hard. He was self-employed, and I watched him get up early in the morning, come home in the evening, eat dinner, take a nap, go into his office and work until 2:00 in the morning doing payroll or invoices, or he would do second and third jobs. He would come home, eat, and then go out, because he started buying property, which is kind of interesting when I think about it, because he was my inspiration, I guess, with me getting into community development, because my dad often bought homes that people would look at and say, what are you doing? But he would buy it, refurbish it, and he would either rent it or he would carry the mortgage to help somebody who couldn't get a loan at a bank be able to buy their first house. And he did that for many people. He helped them start businesses. If he had family and friends who were good at painting or carpentry, I will watch my dad, help them start their businesses. So he was just someone, when I think back on it, because, when you're growing up, you don't really pay attention. But as I got older and I thought about it, I'm like, geez, my dad has created a legacy of people that he has touched and have helped become homeowners and build wealth that were not able to go to a bank. And my mom, she's so funny, but my mom was probably the one that was most engaged in the community. My mom always volunteered at our school. She served breakfast early in the morning. She would teach people, she would have classes where she would teach people how to sew. My mom was a seamstress. And so she was really good at that, but she would have parents or students who may want to learn how to sew. And she would actually set up little classes at my elementary school to teach. She was also very big on voting, and making sure that everyone in the neighborhood, anyone that she met, if she had to bring people to the polls, or I remember when my brothers and I were first able to vote, my mom would literally have, I don't know if you remember how they would send these little poll things to the house and they would have all the candidates noted. My mother would literally line them up and mark who she wanted us to vote for, and she would be explaining why it was really important and why we were selecting these particular candidates, and not just to take propositions for granted, make sure that we read so that we understand. So I grew up in a household where, you look at these individuals and you're thinking, well, they never went to high school, they never graduated, they only went so far. And for reasons that were more economic or just an inconvenience. My mom was on a platoon system, and as a young woman, she didn't like walking a mile home at nighttime. So she just chose not to go back to school, and she went to work in a factory. So people made decisions back then, not to just drop out and do anything, but they did something that helped them build their platform. But my mom was one who was, I often say she's like a perfectionist. So whenever I would start sewing, if I went off key, she made me rip it. If I was crocheting or learning how to knit, if it didn't look right, she'd make me rip it. And she always said, just do it right the first time. Learn from your mistakes and do the right thing. And so I guess all of those little lessons, kind of became a little bit ingrained in me. So work never scared me. It never bothered me to go to work early in the morning, to drive for hours, to get to a meeting, drive back home. It never, ever was an issue for me, because you do what you have to do. I got married, had two beautiful daughters, and I'm so grateful for them. But I had to divorce their dad. Unfortunately, that wasn't working out. And that was probably one of the biggest moments for me, where I had to kind of like step back and figure out what I was going to do, because at 33 years old with two kids and I was working part-time, I really did not have this career planned. Alden McDonald with Liberty Bank and Trust, who I had worked for when I first got out of college, but got married, moved away, came back. He gave me a job. He took a chance on me, and he allowed me to join his team again. And he put me in the mortgage division. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew nothing about financing mortgages or homes. I knew nothing about the products and services. But he gave me the time for me to learn how to do this business. And I mean, I learned by reading every document, by making a lot of mistakes. I cried for 3 straight years. And he had a mentor coach come in to meet with me one day. And never forget Willie Williams. Willie looked at me and he said, Laurie, the day is going to come when you're going to see a customer walk through the door and you're going to know immediately whether or not you can help them. And I remember when that happened, it was like, I got it now, I got it. And was doing well. And what was interesting is that I so enjoyed it because the customers, for those who don't know, Liberty Bank and Trust turns 50 years old today, but it is a Black bank. It is a Black minority-owned bank in New Orleans. And that was really my first real job. And I will always be grateful, because there's no way a larger institution would have taken a chance on me. No experience, what do you bring into the table? But Alden always had a way of looking at individuals and knowing she's got a good work ethic, she's got a word, I'm gonna give her a chance. Out of his institutions, I know he has birthed at least 3 CEOs that I can think of, and one of them is me, you know? So he was a great learning ground. But from Liberty Bank, I had built up a name and a recognition in New Orleans of doing mortgage lending, and Hibernia Bank, which was probably the largest lending and the commercial bank in Louisiana, they approached me to come and run their affordable housing division. And it took me a minute because my heart was tugging. You know, you had this wonderful opportunity. Somebody took a chance on me, but I'm a single parent with 2 kids. And this job is offering you more money, benefits, and a promotion. It was a really tough decision, but I have to admit, I know, and Alden supported me, I had to move in order to grow. And sometimes those are hard. It's hard to do that. And sometimes you just have to pray on it and think long and hard and just move. And I did. And that was probably one of the best things that I did, because I started building houses through their CDC. I was running their affordable housing. We were the largest and most successful affordable housing origination team in the state of Louisiana. We were always recognized at doing the most with accessing capital for first-time home buyers. I knew how to leverage grants and subsidies. So Hibernia really was known for making sure that we leveraged the grants from the city, from the Federal Home Loan Bank, and anybody else in between, because the important thing was helping people get into homeownership, our first-time home buyers, and we did that. And then in 2005, Capital One announced that they were going to purchase Hibernia. Hurricane Katrina happened.
That was a doozy for us all.
I gotta tell you, 2005 was a tough year, because like many people in New Orleans, I was there, I lost everything. I mean, you know, it's kind of interesting to look back on it, but I figured it was God's way of taking away whatever I had accumulated to make sure that I had line of sight so I can move through the door to my next phase. And we landed in Houston. And I often say this was probably the biggest blessing that could have happened to me, because I'm not sure how much further I would have gone with my career had I stayed in New Orleans. But coming to Houston, oh my goodness.
The land of milk and honey.
Doors opened, the community embraced. Yes. I felt so awkward because I was often the one who was helping the community. When you're on the opposite side of the table, is probably one of the most humbling things that can ever happen to you, where you have to be the one, believe it or not, to have to receive food stamps or to have assistance, because I have nothing, you know, and
I've been there.
So, you know, and I often say everybody has a story. We all have a journey that kind of gets us to where we are. And I do believe all of those moments really kind of carve out and create the mode in which we become at the end of the day. And so being here in Houston, people reached out. They helped me get my daughters in school. One was in high school, one had just started college. You know, I had to find some place to live. Reverend Lawson and Wheeler Avenue, I will always be so indebted and appreciative to them, because they put us up in their senior housing facility, their senior retirement center on Scott Street. They brought us to they had 2 apartments for me and my family. There was 8 of us. You know, it's like, oh my God, I showed up and I have all of these family members with me, including my parents. And it's like, I'm so thankful that the city of Houston and, you know, Reverend Lawson and his family and the church and just so many others just stepped up to help me. It goes back to the fact that when people give, you have to give back. You you just have to. You cannot be selfish in this world, because you never know who you're going to need. My life was good in New Orleans. I had no idea how it would flip over until I got here. But for so many people to embrace us, It was all about, I need to show Houston that I love them, and whatever I need to do makes,
You have been
someone's
there.
life better.
Yes,
I want to
yes.
do it.
You were the leader, it seems, in your family at some point, just trying to get your family situated
Oh,
here.
yeah.
And as your journey began here in Houston, and as you went through your divorce, when you had to move about as a single mother, what was that like? Because for people who don't know, you raised two women attorneys, not one, but two. And hats off to you, Mom. I
Yeah.
mean, just a beautiful family. I mean, just beautiful family, beautiful daughters. But what was that like in that process, Laurie? Because that's just commendable for two parents, let alone just, mom and trying to pull all the dynamics together.
I often say it takes a village. It really does. It takes a village with everything that we do throughout our life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be immediate family. It can be close friends. It could be your neighbors. It's just that there's people around you that becomes part of your safety net and your village. And I just can say that I have been very fortunate. I had my parents. I had my younger brother. Now, mind you, my brothers were all self-employed because they followed my dad into the construction business. So when everybody came to me, I was the only one that had a job because, I had Hibernia and then Capital One bought us. So thank God that, that transaction went through and I did not have to worry about income for me at the very beginning. We just transitioned and, you go through the process. But, I didn't do this by myself. So when I had to work, and my parents stayed here with me for a couple of months before they went back to New Orleans. So when I had to go to work, my mom and my dad were here. When the girls got in school, they were able to pick them up and bring them back as we began to transition until I found a place for us to live that my dad felt was safe, that allowed him to go back home and take care of their affairs. And even after I got here, I had friends from New Orleans that had landed here with me. And so we would just connect and help. And where we saw resources, we connected everyone. But more importantly, the community, God, the churches, the nonprofits, everybody was just so willing to assist. My daughters didn't get into school by themselves. I went to St. Mary's Church. And, I would meet strangers who said, oh, my daughter went to this school. Let me take you over there and introduce you. I can't thank Congressman Green enough because, he really opened up a tremendous number of doors. When I needed to get Ashley into the University of Houston and the semester had already started and they cut it off, you make a phone call and you introduce and it's like, please, she's a smart kid. She was on scholarship. Can she get in? So I'm just so grateful to those at Incarnate Word, at the University of Houston, and at TSU. I mean, you create villages. I often think my life is based off of divine intervention sometimes. You don't even realize who you're meeting until it becomes it manifests itself. The situation manifests itself, and then you realize, oh my goodness, I really do need to talk to you, or there's something that I can connect you with that I think is going to be meaningful for everyone involved. And we really have to treat each other with grace and love and have an open heart and not always go into things so, not sheltered, but with a wall around us because you're always expecting something bad to come out of it because you'd be surprised, at the beauty and love that really surrounds us. People, I think, innate are meant to be kind. I think that we misread sometimes emotions, not realizing that not everybody's having a good day. And, there were many times I cried, it was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And then something would happen that would make it so much lighter and so much better. And there's always tomorrow. So it always passes. This too shall pass. And it is so true. It's so true.
Absolutely. I tell you, it was a true journey, and that's a part of America's history when you think about those hurricanes in Louisiana and just the survival mode that people in different communities had to go through, going into survival mode.
Yeah.
But when I think of our young ladies, I couldn't think of a, better example to them. What were some of your college years like? And, even now I try and talk to our young ladies about being mindful how they're dressing. And sometimes, you'll be surprised because I mentor some young ladies who are just, young adults. And then I mentor some who are students in school. So with that being said, it's not meant to offend. It's meant to help try and get you beyond the culture, because the culture is saying you have to get breast implants. The culture is saying you have to get booty implants.
Oh
The
God, I'm
culture
so
is
glad I'm not living through these times,
oh
because
my
it's
God.
there's
And
so
I'm
much
living through it.
influence.
I'm
You
living
have
through it. And you know what, Laurie, I refuse to, what the treadmill won't do, it will not get done. And even now, like with one of my eyes, a few years ago, I was injured in my face, and it was an accident. Someone hit me in my face. It was an accident.
yeah.
And my eye, there was some eye damage that occurred. So it appears that I may have somewhat of a droopy eye, or, one of my sons like, Mama, you getting old, your eye look like it's, no, baby, I was hit in the eye and I'm still
Wow.
having issues from that. But I don't want to cut up my face if I don't have to. I'm gonna live through it. I'll put sunglasses on. I still feel confident as a woman with or without a droopy eye.
I think
Despite if
people
people feel
forget
like,
that's part of your story.
yes,
I let my hair go gray. It was like,
and it's
why am I
beautiful.
trying to pretend? It's God made us perfect. He really did. And I think that things that happen to us in our life, it allows us to tell the story, or to be able, you'd be surprised how you could relate to others when you start talking about it. And your eyes are beautiful. I couldn't even tell
Thank
one
you.
was droopy, but at the end of the day, and you knew it was an accident, so it wasn't like you have to hold a grudge or anything like that. It's part
Not
of
at all.
it becomes part of the story and part of who you are. And it hurts me to see how these some young ladies are projecting themselves, and they're putting so much emphasis on comparing themselves to others. And I think I shared this story with you. My daughter, Lindsay, is 5'10", so she's all legs, she's very tall. And she's a
Beautiful young lady.
but like most kids growing up in college and stuff, she wanted to dress a certain way with those short dresses. And I call them coochie dresses. That's the way that we describe them in my generation. It's like, here she goes. I remember she was going out on a date with her boyfriend, who is currently her husband at the time. And his mother and I were talking, and she pulled up, and she was dressed with this very long V-neck exposed. Her back was exposed, short dress. And we both looked at her. And I could see Fredo, he's not saying anything, but we both looked at her, and I'm like, Lindsay, what are you trying to tell people? Who do you think you're going to attract? And his mother said, are you trying to get my son killed? Because if someone approaches you looking like that, he's going to want to protect your reputation and your dignity, and he can end up getting hurt. Do you really want to do that? In addition to that, who are you attracting? Think about who you want to be with in your life. Do you want to have someone who is God-fearing and who is a professional? Then you need to project yourself as someone who is just as God-fearing and professional, and you don't have to expose. To me, the sexiest outfits are the ones that don't really show anything. It's just how you carry yourself,
Come on now.
in your personality. And, I just, don't change who you are. That stuff is going to end up causing you health problems when you get older anyway. You're going to have to remove them. They're going to get hard. They're going to cause cancer. Don't do it. Makeup is my miracle. You'd be surprised what you can do with some blush and eyelashes, but you don't have to alter anything about you, because you just have to learn to just love yourself. Just love
Yes.
love on yourself. And if you're around people who are making you feel uncomfortable, you need new friends. You need
Amen.
new friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we just,
I love that story. I love it because your daughters are gorgeous women.
oh, you're
And
very sweet.
I'm sure whatever Lindsay had on, whatever they had on, I'm sure it was just cute as it could be. And I can remember years ago when we went to the Greek picnic, you know, we would want our little skirts on or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes for our elders and for our parents, ladies, to teach us how to move in this world, because
Mm-hmm.
having self-awareness, part of that is also understanding how people see you. So you
Yes.
have to understand how people see you. So when her mother said that, I'm gonna have to use that line. I'm gonna have to use that line.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I would
Somebody.
imagine there's a lot of mothers who are concerned about their Black sons. You know, I mean,
Yes,
already there's a target on them for other reasons. We don't need
yes,
them going out trying to protect your, you know, your reputation, and then they end up getting hurt in the process. If you really love the person, you don't want to do that. But you can be
yeah,
beautiful and you could be stylish, and there's a lot of great outfits without exposing. You know, I don't want to get crude, but you know, you got
yeah,
parts of your body don't need to be exposed.
yes,
My mom
yes,
always said the air of mystery is always the sexiest thing, you know,
yes,
and you don't have to be with everybody. Pick who you want to be with, you know, pick who you
yes,
bring into your life and into your village. Not everybody belongs there.
yeah.
And you don't want to get branded because it will follow you. Yeah.
It absolutely will. You know, how you introduce yourself to the world, you have to be careful and mindful of that, because people will never forget how
Yeah.
you introduce yourself to the world. You're on platforms, ladies, we just have to think about it. And, you know, for those who feel like, you know, that's what you want to do, then you go ahead, you do what you want to do. We all have rights, we all have privileges. But for those who are considering altering themselves through surgery, or altering, you know, making sure that they wear the dresses that you can literally see through. If it's not a part of your I would say your employment opportunity, where
Your
some women,
business.
you know, they
Yeah.
wear lingerie. There are
Yeah.
different reasons why women do different things, but overall, the culture is really sinking into the mindsets of our young ladies, the music that they're listening to,
So
the women who,
disrespectful. Yeah.
yeah, the clothes that the young ladies aren't wearing. I have the conversations with the young people, so I'm listening to them, and I'm like, my God, some of
Yeah.
them really think that this is what they have to do in order to become who God is calling them to become, and you do not. With everything, you have choices, you have decisions, and so
Mhm.
you have to use your decisions wisely, because it is God's way of sharing His power with you.
Yeah.
You get to choose,
Yes, you
okay?
do. And you know what else
So,
to add, Leona? You know, you only get one chance to live this life. You really do.
mm,
And you know, you don't think about it when you're young, when you're posting all of this stuff on Instagram and Facebook, how it can come back and haunt you later.
oh my God.
And you know, and it's not that people can't change their life, and it's not that we all have had moments when it's transformational. I always laugh and say, I'm going through a moment right now. You know, I'm
Come on
transitioning
now.
again. You know, and so you always have the opportunity to start over. That's always an option for you. There's always option B. You don't have to stay down this path. No one is stuck in one place. You can always change. But when you're young, you have our dreams and aspirations. You know,
Yes.
you have to really start thinking about what kind of future you want and how you're going to prepare yourself that way. And so just because kids are, you know, in college, are still having fun, drinking, you know, dressing a certain way, doing things does not mean, and I'm not saying you don't have to have fun. I'm just
Right.
saying be mindful. You know, it's hard raising kids in general. And I'm not going to
Yes.
sit here and say it's been a picnic with my daughters. There were moments, you know, but I was a parent that when I saw something, I said something and I did something. I did not wait for the girls to figure out everything. Sometimes it was like, no. And I remember distinctly a young man that tracked my Lindsay down And he was coming to Houston to see her. And my oldest daughter, Ashley, and I both observed, shoot, this man looked like he's under the influence of something.
Okay.
He smells like he's on something. And and every time he was with Lindsay, he's all over her. And I'm like, this ain't cool. We're gonna cut this off. And this girl is in college. I remember Ashley and I sat down with her and said, he's gotta go. You're not gonna see him anymore. I don't care how much you like him. And we cut it off. She cried for weeks, but she did it because peer pressure is hell. Woo. I always said raising my kids, they're great, but it's going to be a young man or a young woman that's going to come into their lives as a friend, as a boyfriend, whatever. And that is where sometimes we can see our kids go off a path. But for me, I had, being in Houston, I would always let them bring their kids over to my house so I could watch and observe. And they chose really well. They knew what my boundaries were. They knew there was no drinking. I don't care if you're in college or what, but they had parties here, Halloween events, movie nights and stuff. And to this day, I love their friends, but you pick and choose. And parents really have to say, when you see something, you pull them back. And then the girls was like, Mom, I'm so glad, because it was hard for them. Sometimes it's hard for them to say no because they feel the pressure, but they put it on me. I can say no and take it off their back and everything, but we just have to stay involved, It doesn't, my grandfather said to me, I remember this so distinctly. He said, when they're young, it's not that hard. It's when they get to college and beyond that your parenting really kicks in, because that's when you need to let them go, but you still have to create that village where you can kind of pull them back and talk to them. And I've just been very fortunate. It's been me and my girls practically half my life, and so we grew tight. They were with me. They saw my ups, my downs, and I did my best to make sure that I put them in environments that would be healthy and where they could thrive. And I feel incredibly blessed today that everything is fine, but life throws you curveballs. And we just have to be open that this is, like my mom tells me all the time, it's like, life isn't easy, but it's meant to be lived. And things are going to happen that's going to be very difficult, but your life doesn't stop. You have to keep going. And we're the author of our story. And we don't have to be victims. We don't have to say, oh, with me, you can make a change. And I am determined to live my life where I'll be the one who decides what path I take. And if I decide to walk the path with you, wonderful, we can have a great time. But if I choose that that's not where I need to be and I need to walk it along, I'm okay with that too, because life is good. Yes. You're only living it once, and you can only do the best you can with your life, but choose wisely. Choose wisely.
Ooh, these jewels that Laurie is dropping today, everything from just being a phenomenal woman, in corporate to, raising children. And when I think of families, most people, sooner or later, there's going to be something in your family that we consider non-traditional, whether children were born out of wedlock or whether divorce occurs or, it can be an array of anything that's linking back to the statistics. When you think about marriage, Laurie, and a woman such as yourself, someone who is just beautiful on the inside and out, who has a career. And I think I'm gonna switch to a different question real quick, because one that came to my mind that I really want to ask. I know there are some young ladies who are single, like myself and others, who desire a relationship, but are still single and they enjoy their lives, they enjoy themselves. I think that there is a misconception sometimes that you work so hard and work your way out of a relationship, when in reality, you might just enjoy handling your business. You may just enjoy your life and you're just okay, when the right person comes along, they'll come along and I'll make adjustments.
Mhm.
And I think that that's safe to say, you know, because of the seat that I sit in. It's not that I work to the point where I don't want a relationship. I think it's about just allowing it to happen or occur naturally. Like for myself, I don't say anything about people who dated online. I just have not done it personally. Anybody that I've met, it has been, you know, honestly, my son's father, I met him in high school. We were high school sweethearts. My
Mhm.
daughter's father, he and I used to work together.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not a club kind of person. You know, I like to enjoy myself. There are a lot of things I like to do on a personal note, but I think sometimes people assume when women are single, if they have it going on in the business category, that well, she works all the time, and that's the issue. I don't really think that that's an
No,
issue unless somebody needs to make adjustments. What do
I
you
think
think
that's
about it?
people's excuses, and I'm in your shoes. I mean, I'm single. I often say, and it's not that I haven't been in relationships along the way. You know, my daughter's father, I met when I was in high school. I met him when I was 15 years old, and we divorced when I was 33. So he was in my
Oh,
life.
y'all would have done it forever.
Yeah, we were together for a long time, you know, and I would say my next longest relationship, well, I've had two long relationships close then. One was a guy that I met when I was in second grade, you know, so, you know, you kind of like reconnect and you're thinking, wow, you know, this might be it. But, you know, it didn't quite pan out that way. And then the next one I met, it was a blind date, you know, but I often say, you know, working and, you know, can never be an excuse. If it's the right person, and I believe this with all my heart, my parents were married for 62 years when my dad passed away, you know, and I know it's not easy. I know it's compromise. I know, but I also know that when it's the right person, there's going to be a mutual respect. My dad always said, you know, it's, you know, love, you can fall in and out of love. If you like the person, that goes a really long way. But I love people, but I can't live with them. You know, I have family members, you know, I love you, but you know, you stay there, I'll see you at Christmas. You know,
Yes.
but there's a respect and a mutual liking that you really like to be around that person. You really like that person. They make you laugh, they make you smile, they're very thoughtful, and they respect you, and they respect the choices that you're making. They may not always agree, but they understand that that's something that you have to do for you. And so I often say I've been very blessed that I have been able to retain my friendships with my previous relationships, and I'm really grateful for that. But for me at the time, and this was a choice for me, it was a struggle for me to have someone in my life who was going to tell me how to raise my daughters. That was me, because I knew I had a plan for them and I knew what kind of life I wanted for them. And so it was important for me to have somebody in my life that understood that, and that wasn't always the case. I am not adverse to having a wonderful partner in my life. I want to grow old. I don't want to be by myself. However, I can't complain about the life that I've built for me. And if I find someone who wants to be a part of it, and we can complement each other, and we like each other, and we respect each other, and you know, we have things in common that are bonding, I am open, you know, but I don't believe that any of us need to settle, because again, life is short, and you only get to do this one time, you know. And I you know, I always believe that when the person is going to manifest themselves, when the time is right, you know, sometimes, you know, God may be waiting because you have some distractions going on, which may be fear, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you may be meeting this person, or you may be passing this person right now, as my mom always says, you know, like, Laurie, you may be passing this person right now and don't even realize it, but the time will come when they will manifest itself. But I have to say the caveat, it won't be the end of the world if it doesn't happen for me. I will just say that that was just my journey. That was just my path. But, you know, I learned a long time ago, if I was still waiting for my husband to buy me my house, or my husband to buy me my diamonds or my furs or whatever, my car, I'd still be
Come
waiting.
on.
you can do so anything you dream of, you can do on your own if you're willing to work for it and make a way for it. But you don't have to take advantage. You just work, and you just, I have to admit, as you had indicated, going online makes me nervous. You hear all of these stories, and that makes me nervous. But meeting someone through a mutual friend always worked for me because it's a grounding. It's almost like a character reference, You know who I am. I know how to find you if you try something. But
No,
I don't know.
I joke around with my sisters. I say, well, if one day when I turn 50, if I'm still single, maybe I'll try it. But I'm cool for right now.
Yeah, you know what? I think that when people try too hard, you end up sometimes attracting the wrong one. I think that if you go about your life, if you're in school, if you're at work, if you're at church, if you're at an event, life has a way of having you meet people kind of randomly through your network. That you don't necessarily have to go online and search for people who are also searching.
It's a different kind. It's a different kind of flex, and for me, I'm good in the shoes that I'm in. I'm enjoying life,
and you're beautiful. You're doing such a wonderful job. I am so in awe of you. And you're so still young. You're gonna be. You have such a bright path ahead of you. I just wish young people didn't, society always makes us feel like you have to have somebody in your life. And I'm not saying that it's not a good thing. I guess because I've been so busy and I have a lot of people that I circulate with, it hasn't been anything that I've actually missed outside of, having an escort for an event, or being able to do something that would be pretty romantic. I love romantic stuff, but but at the end of the day, it's still not going to stop me from taking a trip abroad or to the beach or going to an event because I don't have an escort. I would love to have one, but it just has to be the right person for me to allow into my village.
And thank you so much, Laurie, for dropping these jewels, because at the end of the day, it boils down to self-love and self-reflection, and what my younger sister, she's been married forever. And I try to tell her, she used to think back in the day when I would go long periods of time of being single, she used to think I was waiting on my children's father. And I'm just like, girl, that man not gonna get it together. I'm not waiting on him. I'm enjoying my life.
Yeah.
I know what I want. I know what I don't want. I just have so many different interests. God uses my gifts. He uses my talents. I have a purpose-driven life. And so that means, so will my mate, and then together we can blaze a trail. But if that doesn't happen, I'm okay with just being with me because I love me some Lily. I love myself.
And not to cut you off, but you're an example for your daughters. They watch everything. I remember thinking when I was deciding to divorce their dad, this was not what I wanted them to see as a relationship. This was not the kind of marriage I didn't want them to think this is what marriage looked like. And I have to admit, my oldest daughter has been married 5 years. Lindsay's been married 3. They've got great partners. I really do like their husbands. And I'm really grateful for that because they're so different from my ex-husband. And I'm just so glad that they were able to see something different and were able to pick partners that I think is a better match. Now, I pray every night. I often say money and kids can really mess you up, if you're not on the same page. But hopefully the communication and the respect and being able to recognize how to work things out, because it really is about the communication and reconciling that you're going to have to make compromise on occasion for each other, but you want to do it because there's a bigger purpose here with the relationship. But
it's priceless.
It really is. You just have to know what kind of life you want, and your kids are watching everything that you do. And I never had company when the girls were home with me, when they were with their dad, that's when I dated out, but when they were home with me, my time was with my kids. Because
Yeah.
as a woman, you got to teach them by your
Example.
actions and not by what you're saying, because they watch everything. And so your daughters are going to do the exact same thing. They're going to be watching mom. They're going to grow. They're going to be
Yeah.
aspirational because you're their role model, and they see how
Yes.
hard you're working, and they're going to want to be just like you. And I'm just so excited because I know they're going to be awesome. They're awesome already.
Yeah, I know for everyone out there that has daughters, that's key. What Laurie said, be the example. For my daughter, Kalina, you know, she knows she hasn't met anybody yet. She'll ask me, "Hey, you got a boyfriend?" Nope. You know, she'll ask questions. When my sons were little, the first man that they met in terms of me introducing them as it relates to me dating was my daughter's father. And
Yeah.
we were here in Houston at that
Yeah.
time. So it's important to be an example. Laurie, I can't thank you enough
Oh,
for coming on today and for blessing me with just your pearls of wisdom. And you're just always flexible and just a joy to be around. Um, you know, there's just so many different jewels that you have to share and that you have to offer. So we'll have to reconnect again soon. But before we do leave and just move forward, can you share anything else or any reminders to the young ladies out here or to the families? Anything in particular you want them to know? It could be anything. It could be anything about banking. It could be something personal. Is there anything you would like people to know in terms of you just inspiring them to do the best that they can?
oh, let me also say how much I appreciate you even inviting me to be on your podcast. It's so nice reconnecting with you, Leona. I am so excited to kind of get reconnected so that we can continue to talk in the future. You know, I don't, you know, life is a journey. It's just a journey. And I think as an individual, you have to just know that, you know, the best is yet to come sometimes. And to count your blessings, to be kind to yourself, offer grace. You know, if something didn't go well today, know that tomorrow you can always change it. You always have an option. I tell my daughters that all the time. You don't have to stay on the path that you're on. You can change it any day and recreate yourself and create the life that you want. But there's a lot, it goes a long way to work hard, because that is your reputation, how you show up, how you show out, and your product at the end of the day is what people are going to remember about you. And I am, you know, I will always be around to chat because I love talking, and just if there's anything that I can offer, you know, that's going to be of benefit to someone, that's all I want to do, because I've had so many people who have done that for me. And I have had role models and women that I have watched and have admired and have taken their lessons and tried to incorporate it into my journey. And even though I have more to come, I'm on this phase now where, you know, I'm looking at my retirement, you know, and how I transition from having this really amazing career and an engagement with the community, not wanting to step away from it, but also how do I do it in a way so that when I get into my late 60s and 70s, you know, I can have a different type of journey. It won't be the same when you're in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s and your 50s. You'd be surprised every 10 years it changes, you know. So
My mother told me that.
yeah, it's so true. That is true. Those years
Well, I
go
tell
by
you what, they don't know
fast.
I'm gonna have to snatch you up and, you know, get all your time. So good luck, everybody. I'm gonna
Oh,
get these
thank you.
pearls of wisdom. But we will be in touch, Laura. We will talk soon. Thank you so much. I'm
My,
just so glad you were here for me today.
uh,
And we'll be in touch.
thank you. It was fun. Take
Yes,
care.
yes.
And I love you, Leona. Thank you so much.
Love you too. Hit the button, Laura, hit stop. And when you hit stop, it's gonna download on your computer.
Okay, stop recording.
I'm gonna call you now on my phone.